Is this my favourite book of all time? I want to talk to you today about a book that is very dear to my heart, and it is this book here, Ragboy Rats and the Surging Sea by Alan Temperley. This book came out in 1998 and is an absolute gem. It is still today one of my favourite books, and I do believe it influenced the way I write, the themes that do crop up in my book, not quite in the same way because obviously this is a children's book, but yeah, it is just a wonderful book and I want to tell you a bit about it today. Ragboy Rats and the Surging Sea, which I believe in some countries is just called Ragboy, is a book about a rag and bone boy who goes down to the beach one day looking for flotsam and driftwood after a great storm, and he finds a mermaid. Yes, this of course has some fantasy in it. Why wouldn't it on this channel? We love our fantasy books. But it is also very historical in its setting and how it is written. It has a very Dickensian feel to it. It's set, I would say, in the Victorian era. There are steamboats at the time and pistols, so after steamboats became a big thing and were used for shipping and all that. Sorry, my history is not great and I couldn't find a time reference for the book, but it is set in that sort of Victoriana era, and yeah, it's just so lovely. He takes the mermaid back home with her because she's injured. She needs to get well again, but things do not go as planned. It seems that our rag boy Silas, because that is his name, Silas Fisher, he has made enemies of the local bullies, the cutthroat criminals who live in Hangman Square and in an area of the town called the Alleys, and they own the Black Parrot Inn, and that's where all the criminals sort of have their base. But he has made enemies of the owners of the Black Parrot called Jasper Dredge and his son Albert Dredge, and they're constantly sort of stealing his money and taking things from his rag and bone cart just because they can, because they're big, they're bullies. And this happens, as Alan says in the book, it happened a lot at the time. It was a common occurrence. However, when Silas returns from the sea with the most amazing catch anyone's ever seen, he's selling all this fish off, he's getting lots of money for it, the Dredge's interest is piqued and they want to know how he got quite so much fish. And so Albert Dredge decides to follow Silas one day, and he finds that Silas and his mermaid friend Uli have been out fishing, and she is the one who has been catching all the fish. Now, he goes, alerts his dad, and they steal the mermaid and take her back to the heart of the Alleys and into the Black Parrot, because of course they want to make money from her. And so the rest of the story, as you can guess, is about how Silas is going to free Uli. Alan Temperley grew up in Sunderland, and he was also in the Merchant Navy before he left and became an English teacher, and his naval past really does come through in this, as does the sense of atmosphere of this coastal town, which isn't named, but it just is so evocative. You are transported back in time to this, I would say northern, I think you get very northern English vibes from the book, the type of language that used, but really you could read it, it could be any coastal English town. Could be Falmouth, could be Whitby, anywhere that at least has a port and some industry in that Victorian time. But not only that, the way it is written does not shy away from the brutalities of life in this era. Actually, I reread it because A, it's a wonderful book and I haven't read it in ages. I wanted to refresh my memory on the story. And I was quite struck with how dark it is in places and how brutal the actions of the dredges are and the way they talk. There's no cursing, no swearing, but they don't shy away from the fact that they are cutthroat killers. They mean to kill. They mean to kill Silas at points, and they mean what they say. And they talk about, you know, the punishments of the time was hanging, and they talk about this as if it is a real thing, which in a children's book you don't often see explained in such a way that it is natural. You understand it is how life was at the time that this book was set. And yeah, I just think the way it's written, the darker side of it, I can see that coming through in some of the stuff I write. Of course, mine is grown-up content, there is swearing, there is other stuff that happens. But I do think reading a book like this at a young age, because I bought it at the Scholastic Book Fair, you know, when they undid those crates and you got let in at school, and we also had our World Book Day vouchers. I saw this book and I knew I had to have it. I hadn't even read the blurb. I just knew I had to have it. Didn't know it was about mermaids, but that was a bonus. And just look at that cover. Why would you not want to read that? It does remind me now, looking back on it, as I said, it's very Dickensian, gives you that Oliver Twist feel, especially the fact that we have our rag and bone boy who is always getting picked on, but he has great determination and he is so brave. And then you have the pickpockets, the cutthroats. You have some fantastic characters in here. You have the dredges who are, they remind me of Bill Sykes from Oliver. And then you have characters like Blind Nancy, who is just wonderful. And then the sailors who end up helping out. It's just so wonderful, so evocative. Even as an adult, I think this is a book which is so underrated, and I really, really think more people should read it. So whether you are 11 or 40 or 70 something, please check out this book. It did not get the attention it deserved in 1998, because we all know which other children's books were coming out in 97, 98 and onwards, which took rather a lot of attention away from other such gems as this. This is such a comfort read for me. I have read it countless times. I'm surprised it's actually still in such good condition, because yeah, I'm not normally a rereader, but this book I will read again. Not regularly, it'll be a couple of years before I decide to pick it up again, but it is a book that I read over and over again. So that says something, because I am not a rereader, even of children's books really. I haven't even read other more well-known series over again, but this book, very, very special place in my heart. So it always gets a reread, and I can't wait to introduce it to my children. So Alan, if you ever watch this video, thank you for writing such a wonderful book. Thank you for inspiring me. It's partly because of this that I had the dream of becoming an author one day. So yeah, Alan, you did good.